For more than 10 years, Pawn Stars has been the #1 reality TV show. But now, things have gone wrong. At age 59, Rick Harrison confirms that his son's life sentence is real and states the reason of his death and the events that led to it. But this isn't the only Pawn Stars star who has been caught in shocking scams. Join us as we look into the scandals that could ruin the reputation of this once-loved show, from Rick Harrison's harrowing court cases with his mother to Chum's run-ins with the law. A lot of people watched the reality TV show Pawn Stars when it first came out on the History Channel in 2009. The show shows how the gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas works every day. The shop and its owners became well known all over the world because of how well the show did. Brent, Montgomery, and Colby Gaines of Leftfield Pictures came up with the idea for the show while they were in Las Vegas in 2008. They saw that the city had a lot of pawn shops and decided to make a show about one that was run by a family. This is what led to Richard Old Man Harrison, his son Rick Harrison, and Rick's son Corey, Big Hoss Harrison, opening the gold and silver pawn shop. They ran the pawn shop together until Richard died in 2018. On the show, people liked seeing how gold and silver pawn shop worked every day. Also shown were the interesting things customers brought into the shop and how much the owners thought those things were worth. At first, the shop was mostly for buying and selling gold and silver. The shop became famous in the pawn industry thanks to its father, Richard Harrison, who had been in the business for decades and had a no-nonsense attitude. Fans of the reality TV show loved him because he was honest and had a sharp sense of humor. When Rick Harrison took over with his business sense, it was the best part of the business in the show. He learned about the pawn shop business from his father and knew that it was more than just making deals. He also knew that it was about the customers' stories, since some of the things they brought in had stories behind them. Pawn Stars made a lot of people popular when it first aired on the History Channel in 2009. After that, 3 generations of stars followed. After Richard Harrison died in 2018, Rick Harrison and his 3 sons carried on his work. Pawn Stars was different from other reality TV shows because it focused on the interesting things in the shop. The items, which ranged from historical coins and Civil War artifacts to famous memorabilia and old weapons, often came with interesting stories that kept people interested. Some of the most important things to the show's success were Rick Harrison's amazing knowledge of gold, silver, and trinkets. He was the show's educational anchor because he could explain what different things meant and how much they were worth. Customers could agree to a price with his charm and quick wit. The show's wide appeal was also helped by the rest of the group. Along with Richard and Rick Harrison, Rick's 3 boys also appeared on the show from time to time. Corey always showed up, and Adam and Jake were sometimes seen too. The show quickly became a cultural phenomenon with millions of watchers. The Harrison family became well known. Customer interactions that were hard to predict, educational segments about historical artifacts, and family relationships were all mixed together. Because Pawn Stars was so famous, the gold and silver pawn shop got a lot of attention from the public. Because the show was so famous and successful, it led to spin-offs, merchandise, and fame around the world. People from all over the world visit the gold and silver pawn shop to see the TV stars and watch the deals. The Harrisons turned a small pawn shop into an empire thanks to their business sense and screen charisma, making them culture icons. Adam Harrison, one of Rick Harrison's kids, has had a rough life. Rick Harrison reveals his son's life sentence at age 59, telling the sad truth. It was a surprise that his son had died so quickly, but it turned out that he had been in jail before he died. A police report says that on Friday, officers in Las Vegas were called to a call about someone who wasn't responding. It turned out to be Adam, Rick's kid. When the police came, they confirmed that Adam was dead and then told what had happened in his life over the past few days. The police were told that Adam was staying at the site in a guest house. He had been out of jail for 3 months and was now free. It wasn't clear why he was in jail, but the owner said he let him stay at his place out of kindness. The police also talked to Adam's friends who were living there. They found out that Adam hadn't been in the main house for a long time. Whenever they texted him, he said he was sick and in lockdown. But when the roommates didn't hear from Adam Harrison, they knocked on his door for days and days, but no one answered. When they finally called the owner and opened the flat, they saw that he had already died. Adam had only been living on the land for 2 weeks, and he was acting in a very strange and unpredictable way. Adam had been in jail for months before this, which was strange for the son of a reality show star. He was fresh out of jail, and he often locked himself in his small guest house and didn't talk to anyone. His roommates also thought he was using drugs while he was locked up, and a lot of them thought he had been sent to jail for 3 months on related charges. Adam Harrison, Rick Harrison's son from Pawn Stars, was said to not have been able to think clearly or reason clearly before he died. One of his neighbors who lived in an RV near the main house and the guest house told the police that Adam Harrison did scary things like locking himself in the house and pushing furniture against the doors. She said that his talks were not always logical or clear in his mind. He gave himself 2 black eyes when he found out that someone had a boyfriend, she also said. She said he beat himself up because he didn't want to hit his new boyfriend. Rick Harrison said that his son Adam died from taking too much fentanyl. It had been weeks since he had died when he was found. He had already used drugs before and often used booze, fentanyl, and opioids. Next to his bed, the cops found 2 vials of something, a foil package with an unknown pill inside, lighters, drug paraphernalia, and straws. When asked about his son's death, Rick said that his son actually died of a fentanyl overdose and that this was because of the problems at the border in the United States. He said on Twitter, "Yes, I can confirm that Adam died from an overdose of fentanyl. The fentanyl crisis in this country needs to be taken more seriously. It looks like it's just crossing the borders and nothing is being done about it." The Clark County Office of the Coroner and Medical Examiner then confirmed what killed Adam Harrison. Authorities said that the person died in an accident because they were too high on fentanyl and drugs. He had been dead for 39 years. Rick wrote in another post about his son's death, "You will always be in my heart. I love you, Adam." His son was rarely seen on the long-running reality TV show, but he was often seen on social media. The death of Adam Harrison is not the only one in the U.S. that was caused by a drug accident. The fact that drug deaths topped 1,2,0,0 for the first time in 2023 shows how terrible it is. It looks a lot like the crack cocaine problem in the 1980s and the opioid crisis in the early 2000s. The Drug Enforcement Administration says that fentanyl is a Schedule II controlled drug that is like morphine but about 100 times stronger. For some people, 2 milligrams of fentanyl, which is less than a grain of salt, can be enough to kill them. Richard Harrison, the first person to start Pawn Stars, died in 2018. After 4 years, their business was involved in a lot of court battles and family betrayals. Then Adam Harrison died in 2024, which changed Rick Harrison's life in a big way. He was sued in February 2022 by Rick Harrison's mother, Joanne Harrison, who was married to Richard Harrison and owned the gold and silver pawn shop. Nevada State Court is where the case was made. Joanne said that while she was unconscious, her son Rick made her give up her 51% stake in the pawn shop. She also said that her son had stopped giving her money from the business she owned with him. She said Rick took away her share of the business without her permission and stopped her from getting to the family fund. She also said that Rick didn't tell her about a $3 million loan that was backed by some of her property. In the lawsuit, she asked for a list of assets, vague damages, and a court order telling Rick he couldn't use her money. Also, she asked for a temporary protection order to stop Rick from selling the family's things. During her court proceedings, Joanne said that Rick had not given her proof of assets worth more than $500,000. This made her even more suspicious of him. She also said that Rick stopped giving her the $225,000 a year in payments in 2020, which she said she was due to as a shareholder and a part of the family legacy. The strain on finances and the claimed hiding of information made things worse, turning private complaints into a public family fight. Rick replied that someone was trying to change his mother's mind. He said that over the past few months he had tried to call his mother many times but had not been able to. When Rick's father died, it showed that their famous pawn business wasn't as strong as it seemed. After the father died, the family had to deal with nasty lawsuits and betrayals. There was disagreement about who owned the family business and how much money it had. All of these claims against Rick were denied in public, but they still hurt Pawn Stars and his image. The case showed how complicated it can be when family, fame, and business come together. When trust is broken, problems often arise. Fans of the show had long thought of the Harrisons as a close-knit family working together to keep their business going. The court cases were a big change from that image. When COVID-19 broke out, Rick Harrison had to deal with another problem. Businesses all over the world had a hard time because of the pandemic, and the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop was no different. It used to be a successful business that made more than $1 million a year. A show on the History Channel made it popular. That being said, the shop only made $6 in 2020. One of the hardest times for the pawn shop was during that time. As the owner and star of Pawn Stars, Rick Harrison talked directly about the problems the shop had during the pandemic. The pawn shop lost customers as fewer tourists came to Las Vegas, a city that depends on tourism a lot. It was eerily quiet in the shop, which is usually packed with people eager to see its mix of history and pop culture. Because they didn't get to talk to customers in person, they didn't bring in as many unique things to sell or pawn, which was a big part of the store's appeal on TV. The pawn shop had a hard time making money, and Rick noticed some strange patterns during the pandemic. Even though the economy was uncertain, Harrison noticed a lot of people wanting to buy things. People are spending a lot of money, he said, citing the government stimulus payments as a reason. The stimulus payments and inflation created an odd situation where people were cautious and willing to spend on valuable or collectible items at the same time. It was very shocking when a customer came into the shop with a bag full of human heads to sell. He turned down the sale even though it was funny and something he could talk about in another episode of his show. During the pandemic, these strange events happened all the time, which shows how badly the shop and people were hurt. He thought about the 2008 financial crisis while talking about the pandemic. His show didn't start until a year after this. He pitched the idea of Pawn Stars to investors for 4 years, but most of them didn't think it would work. One investor even asked if anyone would want to watch 4 fat guys in a pawn shop. But once the show started, it grew much faster than other reality shows and got a lot of attention around the world. But the Harrison family deaths and the fight over the land aren't the only problems Rick Harrison is facing. Aside from Rick Harrison and his boys, Austin Chumley, Russell is also a big part of the show. But he's been in a lot of legal fights, which have made the show less entertaining and changed how people see him. It's funny and strange to see him on screen, but his real life is full of fights and police raids. A fight he got into in Hollywood in 2012 got him arrested. Even though this wasn't very bad and the specifics of what happened were kept secret, it was enough to make people worry about his behavior. He was in a lot more trouble with the law by 2016. His Las Vegas home was searched because police were looking into accusations they couldn't prove. However, they did find a lot of evidence against him, such as illegal guns, cocaine traces, and a huge stash of marijuana and methamphetamine. The man was charged with 19 counts of drug possession and 1 count of criminal weapon possession. More charges could be brought against him, so Chum chose to plead guilty and stay out of jail. He pleaded guilty to both the guns charge and the drug possession charge, which kept him out of jail. Even so, he had to go through counseling and probation. He said sorry in public and showed that he felt bad about what he did. The story still did a lot of damage to the reality show, and a lot of people tuned in to see what would happen with him next. Some people liked him because they thought he was honest, while others didn't like him because of his scandals. In the end, the show's producers said they were not going to take Chum off the show. He was able to come back to the show and work on fixing his reputation while focusing on his job at the pawn shop. Plus, Rick Harrison's other son, Corey, who was on the show a lot, had his own share of scandals. At age 59, Rick Harrison confirmed that his son would be locked up for life and said that the death was caused by an overdose. One of his sons died, and he is sad about it, but his other son seems to have trouble staying out of trouble. More often than Rick's other sons, Corey is seen on the show. He recently got a lot of bad press because he did something wrong in public. He has had many controversies, and his actions have sometimes gotten him into hot water, even though he is good at business and has a lot of charisma on screen. One important event that stands out was when Corey behaved badly during a motorbike tour. He was caught peeing in public and later got into a fight at a pub, which got him kicked out to leave the establishment. He got a lot of bad press because of it, which made people worry about how he acts in public. Corey got into another controversy when he got into a legal dispute while renting an RV. The owner of the vehicle said that Corey did not return the RV in a good enough condition, which led to a lawsuit for damage and breach of contract. This legal battle made people even more interested in how he behaved in his personal life. People knew about Corey's mistakes, and he later said that he felt bad about what he did. He also said sorry in public for what he did, saying that it hurt his reputation in both his personal and professional life. His words are that he is now trying to move on, but there is no doubt that the events made many people question his behavior and professionalism. Even though he has some problems on his record, Corey is still an important part of the Pawn Stars cast and works as his dad's assistant. Even though some of his critics still point out his flaws, he is keeping his part on the show and moving on with his life. Many scandals surrounded the Pawn Stars show after the death of Richard Harrison, the original founder. Rick Harrison was engaged in a legal battle with his own mother, and he later lost his son to fentanyl. What's more, Chum has been arrested for drug and weapon charges, and his other son, Corey, was involved in different misconduct cases. Aside from these, another expert on the show, Johnny Jimenez Jr., was arrested for domestic violence after an altercation with his girlfriend. He had allegedly pulled his girlfriend to the ground while they were fighting, and they were both drunk. Still, it led to a shocking scandal, as many eyes were on the show. Rick and his father Richard had also been sued by a disabled Vietnam vet in May 2012. The man claimed that the father-son duo had roughed him up in their gold and silver pawn shop in the fall of 2011. He launched a civil suit accusing them of assaulting him. He claimed that they put him in a chokehold and dragged him through the store, leading to another scandal. That pushed the Pawn Stars show into decline, Another show member who ended up in a scandal was Olivia Black, who was only on the show for 13 episodes. She was let go from the show when throwback photos of her time with Suicide Girls circulated online. Pawn Stars has a law that no one should have naughty pictures of themselves circulating online. She left the show, although she still works at the shop. It was once a thriving family business and a reality TV phenomenon, but the gold and silver pawn shop's reputation has been affected by internal disputes, legal issues, and scandals. Rick's empire faces different challenges, which might just overshadow his legacy. What do you think about Rick Harrison's scandals? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.